All right, for my fellow Kamala supporters, everyone, take a breath. Everything's going to be fine. If you are worried about the news that came out of Georgia today, I get it. It is alarming, but we got this. No need to panic. We knew this was coming. All right? Trump has people in the places he needs them to be in, especially in Georgia, for him to rig the election in that state and to create chaos. They showed their hand today. With 46 days left to go for the election, they showed their hand today with what they decided. If you don't know and you didn't see the news, they decided with Trump's 3 allies in the elections board to make it where every ballot in Georgia now has to be hand counted. This would result in absolute disorganization and chaos, and a lot of uncertainty, a lot of delay in the counting of votes for the state of Georgia. So, of course, everyone's very worried about this. You have a lot of people on both sides who are also very upset by this. No one agrees with this decision. The only people who like this are, of course, the people in Trump's camp. Because as the delay is extending and extending and extending as they're trying to count, you're going to have a lot of room for error. You're going to have a lot of room for uncertainty, a lot more time for them to declare victory prematurely. It's just going to be a lot of muddying the process, and that's what they want. They want to create confusion. They're not going to get it. All right? Here's the thing. The election is probably going to be decided before Georgia anyway. Okay? Georgia is not the deciding state in this year's election. It wasn't in 2020. Is Georgia a battleground state? Yes, there are about 7 or 8 battleground states in this election. Georgia is one of them. However, it narrows down to 2 states that will ultimately decide this election, regardless if the other states are decided or not. That is Pennsylvania and North Carolina. What came out about Mark Robinson the other day probably told the Trump camp they are on their way to losing North Carolina. If Harris were to win North Carolina and flip that state and take it away from Trump, Trump does not have a path to the White House. They can actually call the election on election night. That is how critical he needs to win North Carolina, and it no longer looks that way. Not only is it a toss-up, but it could very well start to lean blue because of everything that's going down with Mark Robinson, and that he can be an anchor pulling down all of the other Republican candidates on North Carolina's ballot, including Trump. Now they turn their eyes to Georgia. They turn to their friends to see if they can rig it, if they can create confusion so that they can go get Georgia. Okay? Signs are pointing to Harris also winning Georgia. So this is their way of trying to win Georgia and trying to do what they wanted to do back in 2020. They're going to fail. Okay? If she were to win both North Carolina and Pennsylvania, it's over. We don't have to wait for Georgia. We didn't have to wait for Georgia in 2020. Georgia was not 100% done in 2020 either. When they called Pennsylvania on Saturday, November 7th, okay, in 2020, that ultimately declared Biden as the winner and the president-elect. Georgia was not complete yet with their tally. Georgia will not decide this election. It is one of the battlegrounds, but Georgia will not ultimately decide this election. Harris is on her way to winning both North Carolina and Pennsylvania, and there is no plausible scenario to where she will win Pennsylvania but somehow lose other parts of the blue wall and also Arizona and Nevada. She is on her way to winning all the battleground states. They are putting in the work, and it is starting to pay off. The polls are starting to show that, and no one is taking their foot off the pedal. Okay, not anyone in the campaign, not anyone who are volunteering, not like you and me. We are going full steam ahead with 46 days left. So that gap is going to widen more and more and more. And now you have states that are in play that should not have ever been in play, like Florida, like Texas. There are polls coming out to either the polls are too tight. Iowa, she's only 4 points behind. That should not even be a state on anyone's mind. And yet here it is. Here we are talking about it. This is their way to win, to create the chaos, to go to the courts, to go to their friends in these places. However, Kamala Harris is ready for this. She has a legal team 10 times the size of Biden's ready for these scenarios. They knew this scenario was going to happen. I am very confident that they already have their challengers ready to go in the courts to overrule what they decided today in Georgia. If worst case scenario comes and we have to hand count every ballot in Georgia, that is all right. She may very well still win, and we won't find out until Christmas, sadly, okay? That doesn't mean that all 49 states are going to be waiting on Georgia like this because we don't know who won the election. It's just not plausible. Georgia is not going to be the deciding state in this election, no matter how hard they want it to be. It is going to be down to Pennsylvania and North Carolina, and we will find out those states sooner, okay? That is where the work needs to go in. There are polls coming out where now all of a sudden Ted Cruz is losing by 1 point in Texas. That's for any poll to come out and suggest that the Democratic candidate in any of the Texas races is doing better, something's happening, okay? We are still on it. We are putting in the work to ensure that whatever is happening is staying the course. They are putting in the work. The work is paying off. We got this. Everything's going to be fine. I am not worried. You shouldn't be worried. Them doing that, again, don't pay attention to the polls. Pay attention to what they're doing. Them showing their hand already in Georgia this quickly right after the North Carolina scandal shows you we are onto something in predicting that they know already that they're on their way to losing North Carolina. And if they lose North Carolina and she wins any of the battleground states, especially Pennsylvania, it's over. We don't need to wait for Georgia. No offense to Georgia. Georgia's still important. But it looks like we're heading in that direction. All good. So everyone take a breath. Watch what happens in the next couple of weeks. Kamala Harris's legal team's already on it. We got this. Just don't take your foot off the pedal. Put in the work. Volunteer. Get the message across. We have 46 days to go. Plenty of time to still keep the momentum going. Everything will be fine. Cheers and have a good weekend.